the exact walking duration to activate fat oxidation. You've probably wondered this at some point. How long do I actually have to walk for it to work? You go outside. You walk for 10 minutes, sometimes 15, sometimes 20. You feel like you did something good for your health. You feel productive. But the belly fat doesn't change. So you try to walk more often. Then you try walking faster. Then you begin doubting whether walking even affects fat at all. Here is the part most people never hear. Walking does not begin burning meaningful fat the moment you start moving. Not because walking doesn't work, because your body hasn't switched fuel systems yet. And if you stop too early, you end the walk right before the metabolic process you were hoping for actually begins. You are not wasting effort. You are stopping during the warm-up phase of your metabolism. We were taught that calorie burn starts immediately. Move your body and fat disappears over time. The earlier you start, the better. But biologically, your body does not treat the beginning of a walk as a fat loss event. It treats it as uncertainty. Your brain's first responsibility is not to reshape your body. It is to maintain stability. Your body wants predictable energy levels. And belly fat, especially visceral fat around your organs, is a reserve supply it does not release casually. At the start of a walk, your muscles suddenly need energy. But instead of immediately pulling from fat, your body uses fuel that is faster and safer. Glucose already stored in your muscles and circulating in your blood. This is intentional. Glucose is easy to access. Fat is slower to mobilize. Releasing fat requires coordination between hormones, blood flow, and oxygen availability. Your brain waits before allowing that process. So during the early minutes of a walk, your body is not burning much fat. It is stabilizing. Your heart rate rises gradually. Your breathing adjusts. Blood vessels widen. Your nervous system evaluates whether the activity is temporary or sustained. This stage is metabolic preparation. And most walks end here. Inside your body, there is a transition point. Think of your metabolism as having two modes. The first mode is quick fuel mode. This uses glucose and glycogen. It powers sudden activity, protects blood sugar, and keeps you alert. The second mode is stored fuel mode. This uses fatty acids released from fat cells. It is slower but sustainable. Your body does not jump directly into stored fuel mode the moment you start walking. It waits for evidence. It needs proof that this movement will continue long enough to justify unlocking long-term reserves. So your brain watches. Is your breathing calming or straining? Is your pace steady or erratic? Is your nervous system relaxed or stressed? When the movement becomes rhythmic and predictable, your brain allows the shift. Only then does fat oxidation begin increasing meaningfully. The major factor controlling this shift is not your legs. It is a hormone. Cortisol. Cortisol is often misunderstood as a purely negative hormone. In reality, it is a survival messenger. It helps you stay alert and maintain blood sugar when the brain senses demand or uncertainty. At the beginning of activity, cortisol remains relatively elevated, especially if you started your walk after work stress, rushing, or mental stimulation. Elevated cortisol tells your body to conserve long-term energy and rely on quick fuel instead. As your walk continues and your nervous system calms, cortisol begins to fall. When cortisol lowers enough, the brain signals fat cells to release fatty acids into the bloodstream. Muscles begin oxidizing fat within mitochondria. Oxygen consumption becomes more efficient. This is the real fat-burning state. It is not triggered by starting. It is triggered by duration. For many people, This metabolic shift does not occur within the first 5 or 10 minutes. It often happens later, after sustained, calm movement. This explains a common frustration. Someone walks 10 or 15 minutes several times a day, but sees little change in abdominal fat. Another person walks continuously for 40 minutes once a day and gradually leans out. The difference is not discipline. The difference is duration beyond the transition point. The first part of the walk prepares the body. The later part of the walk changes the body. Stopping early repeatedly prevents your body from entering fat oxidation long enough to matter. Your body never received permission to access stored energy. Another important factor is oxygen. Fat oxidation requires oxygen. Your cells burn fatty acids aerobically inside mitochondria. When your breathing is rushed or irregular, your body relies more heavily on carbohydrate metabolism because it is faster under stress. As your walking pace stabilizes and breathing becomes smooth, oxygen delivery improves. Mitochondria function efficiently. Fat becomes a practical fuel. This is why calm, continuous walking works differently than short bursts. The metabolic environment changes only after your physiology stabilizes, and stabilization takes time. So what is the practical answer? For most people, meaningful fat oxidation begins after your body settles into rhythm, often somewhere beyond the initial portion of the walk. You'll notice signs. Your breathing becomes quiet. Your shoulders relax. Your mind wanders naturally. You stop thinking about each step. This is the transition phase. Before this, your body is preparing. And goal is not intensity. It is sustained. Goal is not intensity. It is sustained, calm duration. You do not need to walk aggressively. In fact, excessive intensity can delay the transition by keeping stress signals elevated. Instead, walk at a pace where you can hold a conversation comfortably. Let your arms swing loosely. Avoid starting fast. Avoid turning the walk into a performance. The body needs reassurance before it releases reserves. Once you continue beyond the transition, fat oxidation increases gradually. The longer you remain in this stable state, the more your body relies on stored energy. Over weeks, repeated exposure to this state improves insulin sensitivity, lowers baseline cortisol patterns, and trains your metabolism to access fat more readily. Visceral fat responds to repeated hormonal conditions, not a single session. If you have been walking consistently but stopping early due to time, habit, or impatience, you were not wasting effort. You were just finishing before the cooperation phase began. Your body was ready. You simply ended the conversation too soon. Fat loss is not triggered by starting activity. It is triggered by staying long enough for your brain to trust the activity. Your metabolism is cautious, not stubborn. Once it recognizes predictable, calm movement, it releases stored energy more freely. You do not need perfect workouts. You need consistent signals. When you allow your walks to extend beyond preparation into participation, small changes accumulate. Hunger stabilizes. Energy improves. Sleep often becomes deeper. Then slowly, your waistline shifts. Not because you forced fat to burn, because your body finally felt safe enough to use it. Walking is not just motion, it is communication. And the duration of that communication determines whether your body listens. Stay long enough, and it does.